It's been a crazy couple of weeks in the art world and an even crazier couple of weeks out there in the real world. It seems like right now you're either getting more involved into politics or you are running away from it altogether. In this episode, I want to take a look at some projects of artists that have been getting stuck right into it. My name's Doug. You're watching Fifth Wall TV. Shit, I need to get an iron, man. For Halloween this year, the Berlin collective ROCCO His Brothers teamed up with their sister HERA to create a truly chilling piece of performance art. Taking their fight to the fast fashion world, they dropped this video titled RIP Mark, or RIP Mark. I'm actually not entirely sure which one it is, but I think both would actually work. The video's performance sees a series of alleged construction workers cordon off an area outside a PRIMARK in Berlin, in which they leave a series of upturned paper shopping bags to create a sort of graveyard-like tombstone effect. We start to hear the somber tones of Max Richt's Dream 3, and we see this figure draped in black push a coffin towards the store. The video then begins to slowly draw attention to the reality of fast fashion production in Bangladesh. Images of bodies are overlaid with reminders of the Rana Plaza collapse that injured 2,500 people just a couple of years ago. The video climaxes with the mourning figure being kicked out the store, with a security guard asking her if she's bored or on drugs. The whole piece stands as a beautifully moving and powerful reminder of how consumerism is affecting the world. It was only a few months ago that graffiti artists from around the world were taking fire extinguishers to H&M just because they used Reebok's artwork without permission. There was a bitter taste in my mouth as to why this individual artist was getting all the support, but when communities of people are being continually exploited in another country, there's really no action being taken. There's unquestionably a beautiful relationship between art and activism, especially when it comes to street art, work that is in the public domain. I'm going to discuss this in a little bit more detail with my guests Rushmore and Milu Correch later on, but right now I'd like to take a look at JR's latest project taking on gun control with Time magazine.
We're here doing a very special mural for the cover of Time magazine. It's a metaphor of what's happening in the US.
Before we get stuck into the nuts and bolts of this one, let me just really quickly break down the project for you. JR is a French photographer that has built up a huge global reputation by taking photos of people and then printing them out large scale and then fixing them onto very unique and interesting places. He then uses these to try and tell a story about a particular situation. For example, there was villages in Kenya, there was the separation wall in Israel and Palestine, and possibly one of his most famous ones, the favelas in Brazil. His reputation far exceeds what's kind of collectively understood as the street art world, and along with his TED Talk and his high-end collaborations, he is very much existing in the fine art world. Even though he has worked in politically and socially volatile situations, he's never taken an overt stance. His artwork really serves as a tool for conversation rather than to promote a particular ideology. Personally, I have no problems with this idea of kind of sitting back and allowing people to come to their own conclusions on a situation. You just use the artwork as a vessel to get people involved or engaged into that, and then let them come to their own conclusions as to which side of that debate they want to sit on. For this particular project, JR's tools were being put to use to create the iconic Time magazine cover, and JR's subject of choice, gun control. Speaking as an outsider, I would say that this is, if not the most, definitely one of the most divisive subjects in American society. For this project, JR is not only creating the front cover of the magazine, this image will also be transferred onto a mural in New York's famous Bowery Wall. The concept for the image was to take the photo of 245 different people who all feel and represent different facets of this gun control debate. So you had far-right nationalists sitting next to shooting survivors, next to hunters, next to casual gun users, next to legislators. So they were all represented on this image, and in the center was a table. The idea being that JR and Time magazine want to get everybody round the table to discuss gun control. A very emotive subject and a really strong idea. Now, I couldn't get JR himself to discuss this further, so I've done the best thing and got Rushmore. And I've also got Argentinian artist Milu Correch.
Part of this mural, they maybe don't know it, but they all link to each other. because they'll always be part of the same mural, even if they don't share the same ideas.
I really want to talk to you about JR's mural time cover combo, and we'll just get stuck into it. Well, how do you feel about the concept and the kind of the execution of it all?
Yeah, I was just pretty indifferent to the mural. Sometimes there's another mural about 4 blocks away from that, the JR mural that I love. That's a portrait of a dreamer that went up a couple months ago. So there's a lot of JR stuff that I absolutely adore. And this one I was just like, you know what? Didn't do it for me. And that was fine. And then to see what was done to it or done with it, to turn it into a sort of memorial, then I suddenly was like, okay, this works. This works for me.
Okay, so let's start off before we get into the kind of the evolution of it. So what was it that didn't tick your boxes about this particular mural?
I love that JR approaches most of his projects with this idea of let's find a shared humanity. I think that works really well on things like Women Are Heroes. I think it worked really well with everything he's done with Dreamers. I think it even worked well on very divisive topics before, like in Israel and Palestine, on separation, on the apartheid wall, right? And what he did with this, though, was he directly injected politics in a way that maybe wasn't injected into, say, the project on the apartheid wall, right? Like intentionally politics were removed when he says, here's a portrait of a cab driver in Israel. Here's a portrait of a cab driver in Palestine. Can you tell who's who? Here is like, let's insert the politics very directly. Let's literally have people holding guns. Let's tell exactly their stories. One example was I was just looking at this last night. There's a guy who's the CEO of something called Tactical Shit who's on that mural. Now, CEO of Tactical Shit sells tactical gun accessory shit, right? And he sells, in addition to gun accessories and whatever, he sells patches like, say, a Confederate flag. Now, to me, that doesn't seem like the guy that you put on a mural, the guy who sells Confederate flag patches or patches that say, good guy, bad guy, I'm the guy with the gun. I'm done with centrism on the gun debate, essentially. When people are being killed, I don't really have time for the guy who's head of Tactical Shit. On a national stage, on a mural, right? Maybe on a one-on-one conversation, that's fine. Maybe in a journalism piece, fine. But it'd be like if you had a mural about Me Too and you put Louis C.K. up on it because you wanted to show both sides.
I think the firearm in the world, it's here. It's a necessary evil. An armed society is essential to maintaining a free society.
Well, I think you have to put a little bit of context. Like, it's the Time magazine, so of course, like Princess and Obama go on the Time magazine. So I think it's like a magazine of power usually. So it doesn't surprise me that JR occupies that place.
Do you see it as something effective? This notion of trying to stir up the gun control conversation and this idea of trying to bring people to the table?
I think we should again put context like the gun control. I have no idea on the USA politics, but as I know, there's been this conversation before. It's like people died, so they kind of had this conversation around guns control. So I think it's already on the table. I don't think a Time magazine or whatever will actually change the values. Usually when I see this visibilization moves from artists, what I see is actually they're not putting the issue on the table, but they are actually taking the issue from the table. So I do not believe that that they are starting to talk about gun control and things. Now they are talking gun control, but they were actually just talking about it, and now it's on the Time magazine, and now it has an artistic value.
The idea of this table thing was particularly interesting for me because he was like, I think it, kind of came across like, let's all sit down and talk about this. And it's like, haven't people been talking? I mean, I don't know because I'm not in America. You're not in America, but haven't people been talking about this like constantly for a long time?
there is a table. There is no table. Like in capitalism, you have the people that produce the guns, buy the guns, use the guns, and that makes a lot of money. And to think that it's just like the issues about not having the table. What I usually see with this approaches, it's like they are very naive.
Do you think that this has potential for really any impact for someone that is the, Breitbart supporting gun nut, whatever? Do you think that they would be able to look at this realistically from another angle that maybe something like CNN or MSNBC couldn't offer?
If you look, and I think that's something that, as I said, I think that's something that JR's projects can do, right? They can take a polarizing situation. I think the apartheid wall being a great example. They can do that, and they can humanize folks in every position, or people who maybe aren't even involved in the conflict, but we demonize them anyway, right? I don't think that's what would happen in this case. In this case, you have people holding guns and people shouting and people holding protest signs, and it's supposed to be, I guess, this thing about people sitting down at a table to have a reasoned discussion, and there is some of that in the mural, but there's also straight up aggression on both sides, and it was positioned, I think, as here's one side, here's the other, right? I mean, visually, that's how it's positioned, even if there are nuances in the audio pieces. No, I don't think that aesthetic of literally saying everyone's over here and then everyone's over here is really going to bring people together.
This was the first time JR has really laid cards on the table. He didn't necessarily take a stand. Do you think?
I think this is Europe. What do you say? It's Europe. Like this, or here, like if anyone says like I'm not political, I'm trying to be partial or neutral or apolitical. For us, that's right wing. Like in Argentina, to have that position, it's right wing. So for me, it's amazing. Like someone said, like, no, I will address this with the most objective way, and I will put two parts, and we'll do the table, and I will put everything, and trying to not take position. That's bullshit, because I think like it is like just to address that issue, it's a problem. And then how do you address it? And the fact that there is like you think it's a table with a conversation of two parts. That's not how it works. Like why? Like the world and capitalism works around guns, like around wars. You need wars, and you need it's the same thing. And in Europe, you go in Europe, it's like no, we are not in war. We are not at war. Like that's happening in Syria, but we are not. Yeah, but you're producing all the fucking guns. Like if you are producing balls, and you throw a ball there, they will play football. All right, but you're throwing their guns.
Walk me through this change. What happened to the mural?
Sure. So the mural goes up, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, we have another mass shooting in the United States in Pittsburgh at Tree of Life Synagogue, and 11 people are killed by just disgusting anti-Semite who goes in and says, I want to kill all the Jews. And it's just, it's another day in America, right? This has happened fucking again. So an anonymous artist or artists decided to then modify the mural and paint a giant 11 on it in red, and I think and leave some roses, and also splatter some paint over a few of the folks in the mural who are literally holding their assault rifles or assault style rifles. If that hadn't happened and I had been in the neighborhood anyways, I probably wouldn't have gone down to the mural. I'd kind of seen it online. I wasn't that interested in it. I'd like other stuff by JR more. Fine, I'll see it when I see it. But then when I saw that happen, I was like, okay, I have to go and see this. And it really was one of the most powerful things I've seen on that wall on Houston and Bowery in a long time.
It is unquestionably a batshit world out there. You guys stay safe, keep fighting, keep active. Till next time, my name's Doug. This was Fifth Wall TV.